All right, this is working. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Youth Leadership to Finance and Accelerate Global Climate Action Solutions session. This session is all about exploring opportunities and tools to achieve an inclusive and meaningful climate action that leaves no youth behind. We have an exciting toolkit to share, and this session is about building better connections with and between you all in the room. There will be a very cool World Cafe, and it's going to be super exciting, I promise. Where you will all get to know each other and the exciting opportunities that you can share with each other. So yeah, looking forward to that. So without any further ado, I would like to invite Jennifer Bombal from the UNDP and Archana Soreng from the United Nations Secretary General's Advisory Group on Climate Change to share some opening remarks.
Great, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to this exciting event, the Youth Leadership to Finance and Accelerate Global Climate Action Solutions. My name is Jennifer Baumwall. I work as UNDP's, the Global Coordinator for UNDP's Climate Promise, which is UNDP's global corporate effort to support countries implement the Paris Agreement, particularly on NDCs as well as long-term strategies. So I think for all of us here, it's no surprise the critical role that youth plays in the climate agenda. We see not just the impacts and challenges that youth are facing on the front lines, but also on the same front lines, the role that they're playing, the leadership that we see in terms of designing solutions and innovative approaches to dealing with this crisis. Youth are agents of change, and there's no way that we can tackle this without engaging and empowering youth. As I mentioned, within the Climate Promise, we work on supporting countries on their nationally determined contributions. We've seen a very strong increase in engagement with youth on this planning and implementation of these national pledges, and it's quite exciting to see that there's a trend in that direction, and that there is more interest, more spaces for bringing youth into the conversation. Of course, there still are challenges, and we see that as well within the portfolio. We see the need to further empower the leadership that already exists. We see the particular need to provide access to the financing that so many youth leaders need in order to accelerate and scale up the solutions that they're seeing. So I'm very excited to see that this event is providing the space to share a lot of those solutions that we're seeing. UNDP has quite a large portfolio and an effort to help to support all of this work. We have over 900 projects with youth, a number of different platforms and portfolios within the broader UNDP ecosystem that's really helping to empower youth across different areas. We have our Youth Global Program for Sustainable Development and Peace. We have a newly launched Youth for Climate initiative that's in close partnership with Italy. And then we have many platforms at the national and regional level that are also supporting this work. The Youth Empowerment and Climate Action Platform and Youth Co-Lab in Asia. We have the Youth Leadership Program in the Arab States, which I think we'll hear a bit more about, and the Youth Connect in Africa, among many others. So we're very happy to have, again, this space to be able to share this experience, exchange, and really identify how we can all collectively accelerate a lot of this work. So UNDP is very happy to be hosting this event in collaboration with UNCDF, UNEP, UNICEF, Generation Unlimited, and the Secretary General's Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change, as well as UNGO, and all of our youth leaders that are here today. So thank you again for being here. We're very excited and look forward to the outcomes of these conversations. Thank you.
You can pass it on directly.
Hello, Johar everyone. Before I start, I would like to take a moment to thank UNDP I feel as a member of UN Secretary General's Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change, UNDP has been one of the strongest ally and supporter in these processes. And a huge gratitude to UNDP for supporting us, believing in us, and trusting in us, and more so standing by us and letting us do what we want to do. So a huge round of applause for UNDP. So as we all are talking about today about youth leadership and finance, I think it's really critical for us to reflect that we cannot sustain the youth movement ahead without the lack of resources. It's critical to be part of climate finance processes. We need financial allocation for the youth movement because most of the young people which we are engaging is in the voluntary capacities, and it's a struggle between your livelihood, it's a struggle between a life of with decent and sustainable way, and more so advocating for the cause and climate action. I think it's really critical for all of us to make sure that climate finance prioritizes young people, indigenous people, and local communities and Afro-descendant communities. As we are at this COP, which is COP27, we all have been advocating for loss and damage finance. And it's really critical that loss and damage finance is committed in COP27, which is prioritizing indigenous people, local communities, and young people, and we need it right now. We need the loss and damage finance and loss and damage fund right now here at this COP. And it is all related with climate finance and youth leadership, because me as a young indigenous woman, it's difficult for my communities and communities across the globe because we are living under the threat of eviction, migration, displacement, and loss of our livelihood because of impacts of climate crisis. And loss and damage needs to prioritize that. Climate finance needs to prioritize that. We indigenous people, young people, have been engaging in our entrepreneurship skills, community mobilization, and advocating in this space in different roles like researchers, writers, communicators. It is really important that our role needs to be acknowledged in these spaces, and more so there is more of funding allocation, more so resource allocation for indigenous people, young people, and local communities to ensure that there is safe and enabling spaces for us. Because at COPs and international spaces, we young people barely do have places to stay and food to survive. It's been really difficult, and most of our young people have not been able to access even these spaces because of resource challenges and because of accreditation challenges. We talk about leadership, but how can we ensure that there's meaningful leadership if the issues on grounds are not addressed? So it needs a holistic approach. It needs more of fund allocation for adaptation, loss and damage fund. It needs more of allocation of funds for supporting the youth leadership and engaging with them in doing the work they are doing. And most importantly, I think there needs to be trust. There's no trust within us, and that is something which is really important for us to accept, because a lot of time when we have reached out to communities, it's like, how will the youth handle these amount of resources? How will the youth engage in these kind of impact oriented work? We all have been doing it and we know how it is done. I think it's really important to have flexibility in the processes, in the structure, where it is contextualized, where it is youth people driven, and it is partnership and it is not imposition. At the end, I would like to just give a short example and sum it up. Last year, I was advocating for bringing more people and getting more accreditation. The question which was asked me, it was like, how do we know these young people are credible? Because they do not have website, or we do not know what kind of work they do. And I said, I am vouching for them being the UN Secretary General's Youth Advisory Group on climate change. I know these people, they are working on ground and community oriented, but it all came down to visibility, it all came down to fancy websites. But it's a vicious circle of not having resources to do all of this, but also about how the communities on ground function. We have collectives, we meet each other, and it is more of grassroots oriented. We never worked on a website, it's only now. So I think it's really important to acknowledge this, that how things have been changing and how things are on ground. And I'm very proud to say that we have now indigenous young people, journalists, communicators in all spaces, and they're also choosing there as their own livelihood and career. But most importantly, it is like, how do we ensure that youth movement are supported in climate finance and through adequate resource allocation, not looking at making a charity or a donation or imposition of, we will give money to youth so that they can advocate this way. How we can create a ecosystem where there is more of enabling love and support for each other. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much both, and those were really inspiring words. I think that I really hope that they went through everybody's heart here. We really needed to listen to that. Thank you so much for defining all the UNDP's work that you have been doing. So yeah, all of that listening, let's move forward to see the temperature check in the room a little bit. So how many young people do we have in the room today? If you define yourself as a young person, let's clap together. Okay. You can still clap even if you don't define yourself. Okay, thank you. So now we will be moving towards the most insightful part of our session today, where you will be learning more about the Youth Activist Toolkit from UNDP and UNICEF Arab States Regional Hub, which is done by the youth for the youth and covers very comprehensive youth involvement in all across the climate space. So now we will pass the floor to Benjamin Basmasi from the UNDP Arab States Regional Hub and Adrian Stalder from UNICEF MENA Regional Office.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, perfect. Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much for the powerful opening remarks. That was really eye-opening and lovely to see all of you here. Thank you for coming and joining. And so Benjamin Basmaji, works at UNDP Regional Hub for Arab States, and I'm here together with my colleague Adrian from UNICEF MENA Regional Office. So we wanted to present a concrete toolkit that has been done by youth and for youth on basically climate change, where we look into climate change governance. We also look into other aspects of climate change on how to involve youth and build capacity around it. And so in the Arab states, for instance, we have around 70% who have identified climate change as an emergency. And so this was the guidance on how to go forward with this. And this basically builds an inspiration from other regions, including the Latin America and Caribbean. Fantastic. Yes. So the goal of this toolkit is to share concrete and clear messages that are easily understandable on climate action in order to prepare young people and youth to give them the full information that is transparent, and so everyone can participate in this. And so, as mentioned before, the Youth Toolkit has been done by or created by young people for young people, and it is previously done in other regions as well, including the Latin America and Caribbean region. And so we've collaborated together with UNICEF MENA Regional Office for this. And for that, I'll pass it on to Adrian to go in deeper into these different toolkits. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ben, for the introduction of the toolkit. and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. We will go a bit more into the detail of each of those 4 modules that are already existing right now. Just to give a brief overview, it is 4 of them existing now. We are currently working on 2 more. Speaking a bit about that in a minute, and they are available in Arabic and in English to reach as much young people as possible. Slide, please. So the first volume of this Youth Climate Activist Toolkit is on climate glossary. We think it's very important to understand what the challenges are that we are facing. So this first toolkit is focusing on what climate change is, but also on climate governance and the human rights aspect of climate change. It has a lot of technical terms explained that we need for climate negotiations. It explains the difference between climate change, climate variability, what is anthropogenic, what is resilience. But then on the more governance side, let's say, what is mitigation, adaptation, why is it important to have child-sensitive climate policy, and it highlights also that we have a right to information and to participation. Okay, you see here, sorry, the summary of this first volume. To go on with the second module of the Young Climate Activist Toolkit, it's about the tools that we have for climate action. So it is very important that young people know that they can influence the processes used to formulate and integrate climate action. So this module shows how to use the existing consultation and participation mechanisms that are in place for climate action. It also gives some examples. Let's say if in some countries or some contexts there is a bit less space for consultation and participation, we have some very inspiring case studies and examples where, for example, climate education has been added to the school curriculum in one of the MENA countries. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. We have the third module of this toolkit is about climate governance, a very important one, being here at COP27. It is very important that we know the relevant decision-making processes. They are complex. They can be flexible, adaptive, formal, informal, national, international, regional, or at local level. So every young climate activist should be aware of these processes and should know the relevant actors that are involved in the negotiations. So in this module we are focusing on that topic, introducing the relevant stakeholders, the relevant actors, the bodies and institutions, all the participants, and also, very important, how they are organized in negotiation groups. Thank you very much. Next slide. Okay, and even one more. We can see here, just to give one example of a plot that is in the toolkit, being at COP today, which is here, that the climate negotiations is not just something that is going on now in these 2 weeks, but it's an ongoing process throughout the entire year, with several opportunities to interact for young people. Thank you. And we have a last module is on the Paris Agreement from 2015, COP21. A very important COP, which has changed the course of global climate action. The toolkit highlights the very ambitious goal that we have and its content. And it's also containing the entire Paris Agreement in a youth-friendly language, which was even very useful to me, to be honest. Next slide, please. Those are the 4 existing modules that we have at the moment. As I already said, we are working on 2 more volumes. One on water scarcity, which is a very important topic in the MENA region, but not only. In the MENA region, we have the most water scarce countries in the world, and yeah, I think it's a problem or a topic which is urgent throughout the globe, knowing that population is going up and freshwater resources are getting more and more scarce. So we have one module focusing on that, and the other one on gender, showcasing the gender dimension of climate change and helping to support the transition towards more feminist adaptation strategies. We are also working on a training course to make the toolkit even easier to access for young climate activists. All right, next slide please. So thank you very much for your attention. Of course you can download the toolkit on the internet with this QR code or by going on our website. Please do download the toolkit and feel free to share it with young people, but not only, also with old, of course. I think it's an important thing. Thank you very much.
Does this work? No? Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, both. We hope that you all can scan that QR code and find that toolkit on the internet very easily. Please read that, because we need more young people and children in the negotiation rooms, and we need every single person in that room to know that they have a right to own the space and raise their voice. So thank you so much, UNDP and UNICEF, for working on this comprehensive toolkit for young people. And now we will be transitioning to the next session, which will be about what is needed to support youth-led actions. And we will be introducing the World Cafe. So I will pass the floor to Sirajani Raymond and from Fridays for Future India, and also Nathan from the Secretary General's Advisory Group again.
Okay, so do it. Go for it. I don't know either.
Do you have? Oh, can I use
Yeah.
my phone for it? Okay.
You can read from my phone if you want to, yeah? These are the names. All right?
You can put them out and they can come up.
And then I just ask them the questions, right?
No, there are no questions. You just you tell them to do these talks, these cartoons.
Okay.
And then you translate.
Hello, everyone. I would like to invite our speakers on stage now. We have Jean-Claude Niagumbo, co-founder and CEO of Speak Farms, and Gen U's Young People Action Team. Welcome, sir. Come sit. I have Daria Chekalskaya from Yongo. Maria Aguilar, Director at Education for Sustainability and Climate Crisis, and Eco House Global, and Isa Garba from Niger. So I would like our speakers now to take a minute each to share what is needed to support youth-led action. Maria, would you like to go first?
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm Maria, I'm from Argentina. I'm part of an NGO called Eco House, and we promote action for sustainability with a very, very big emphasis in the word action. We do that across different programs. We have more than 30 programs based in education, in policy advocacy, restoration of ecosystems, and of course climate change. We have a series of programs being carried on. We have a network of schools for sustainable education. We have a forum of organizations that work on education. We created, and actually with the support of UNDP, the Conference of Youth for Latin America, to get youth together. And so there's lots of ideas and a lot of things going on actually. There's not just in our heads, it's not just desires, but we actually do it. We take action. And that's why resources are so important, but also youth being able to create projects to show them, to see the impacts, and be able to, I don't want to use the word sell, but I don't know another word in English to do that. So to share those ideas, those projects, and be able to find the adequate alliances to be able to find the resources to carry them on the communities and really make changes.
Thank you, Maria. Isa, would you like to answer the same question?
Translate. I'll do the translation. What is needed to support? Sorry. Qu'est-ce que tu penses il y a besoin pour supporter l'action climatique?
Pour les jeunes. Merci de l'opportunité que vous nous donnez. Moi, je suis Issa Garba. Je suis coordinateur du réseau de la jeunesse nigérienne sur les changements climatiques.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm part of the network for
Niger Youth Network on Climate Change.
Du Niger pour... je pense que tout le monde a compris.
Ok. Ce que les jeunes ont besoin, particulièrement les jeunes du Sahel, dont je viens, qui est aujourd'hui confronté à une crise de terrorisme.
Today, what is really needed for young people in the Sahel is different crises, including one that is terrorism.
Parce que le terrorisme est en train de profiter des effets de changement climatique pour pouvoir recruter plus de jeunes qui n'ont pas d'emploi.
Terrorism is creating a situation where young people are getting involved because they are facing unemployment.
Nous avons plus besoin que les projets des jeunes puissent être soutenus pour que nous puissions quitter la précarité, et cela permettra aux jeunes de ne plus être tentés par la violence ou bien aller vers ces actions qui ne sont pas des actions durables pour nous tous ou bien pour le monde entier.
We really need resources to make sure that young people are utilizing these resources not to work and be involved in terrorism and things like this, but rather do meaningful action.
Ouais. Il faut qu'au niveau du PNUD par exemple, ou bien au niveau du GCF, il faut qu'il y ait des fenêtres spécifiquement dédiées au financement des projets des jeunes.
For the UNDP and other institutions, it's essential that there are funding that is specifically dedicated for young people.
Ouais. Pourquoi, même au niveau de la COP, de la manière dont il y a le JCF, le fonds d'adaptation, le fonds des LDC, pourquoi on ne crée pas une fenêtre spécifiquement qui ne finance que les projets des jeunes, encore portés par des jeunes?
For all the funds, especially the ones that are related to the COP for the LDCs countries or for adaptation, why there is not a specific fund for young people within that?
Merci beaucoup.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Jean-Claude Nyomugabo, and I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Spec Farms, an agri-tech company that works with young people to make sure that they can create green jobs, as well as making sure that they can get unemployment, especially in agriculture sectors. So the question is, what can be done to support youth-led action? For me, because I'm a farmer and I work with most of young people who are small-scale farmers, and the challenge that we face is the lack of access to the finance. So if there is an access to finance which can enable young people to implement their idea, to implement their action, that should be more amazing to scale up and improve their idea which can generate high impact. The second is about the capacity building, because most of the young people, they don't have the knowledge and the skills that are needed to make sure that they can implement their idea to the next level. So if they can get access to the trainings, especially the capacity building, this should be more amazing for them, as well as surrounding young people who need unemployment. The third one is about connecting them to the partners such as UNDP, UNICEF, and the other partners who can support them in different ways so that their idea can be implemented, especially in the green jobs. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Daria, and I'm here on behalf of youth constituency of UNFCCC Yangon. We came here to do climate action, to follow negotiations, to do interventions, and to do action on the ground. So this is our form of climate action, right? And we were actually supported by the Ministry of Youth in Egypt. However, what they thought they were doing, supporting us financially by subsidizing our accommodation, turned into a nightmare, as many of youth know. When I arrived, I had to sleep under the stairs on the sofa for my first night because, the rooms were not available, the funding didn't go through, and all other stuff. So I guess the takeaway from that, and this is not a single story, right? We have like 400 youth staying in that hotel, and probably some of you in the room also there. So what I guess is the takeaway from that is that we really need due diligence when the finance is given, any climate finance is given. We already have enough problems. We have already enough, lack of this, lack of that, capacity building, institutionalization, standardization. But we need transparency. We really need transparency, and we really need follow through by those who give those finances. The youth is acknowledged right now. The youth is loud, and I think there is going to be certain, finances allocated to it. And I guess my message is that we shouldn't give up while there is a momentum. We should really make sure that the process is going where we want it to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Daria, and thank you to all our speakers for highlighting the need for accountability, transparency, and how financing for youth needs to be accessible, because often we don't even have access to grant making, the UNDP has been a great support to youth, but a lot of youth working on the ground don't even have access to institutions to get this support. So it's very important for us to keep in mind what all our speakers shared with us today. We will now move on to the World Cafe. So this session is going to be an open dialogue, and we're going to sort of divide the room into two parts. We have one second.
We can call them on stage just to present themselves.
Okay, awesome. So I invite the following people on stage. Leela Dean from Bloomberg is not here. Okay. Gemma Afjes from Open Society Foundation. Oh, you guys can stay. We have Ludovicia Amatucci from UN Capital. We have Calvin Shikuku from Motorbricks Limited. And we have Mira Torres from SIF. Oh, you can. Yeah. So I'm going to ask the speakers to quickly introduce themselves, and then we will divide the room into two panels, and then we will have like a networking session.
Can you all hear me? Okay, great. Hi all, I'm Mira Torres. I'm from CIF. I work in the climate team there. I know that people come with varying levels of information about what CIF is, but it basically stands for the Children Investment Fund Foundation. We are the world's largest global philanthropy that is focused on addressing children's needs, and that means that we have teams that work on, girls' education, family planning, nutrition, and so on. But then we also have a climate team because climate change is inherently about future generations, and there's no addressing children's needs without also addressing the climate crisis. So we work on numerous different areas. In terms of our space in the youth movement, we probably have more of a history, and also in terms of time, but also funding, supporting youth movements across the children's side of the organization, so feminist movements and so on, but funding and supporting youth-led climate movements is an increasing area of work for us. So it's really great to be here and be a part of this conversation.
Hello everyone, my name is Calvin Shikuku from Nairobi, Kenya. I am a Generation Unlimited Young People's Action Team member, and I also run an initiative known as Motorbricks Limited. It's a social enterprise in the renewable energy sector. We make organic briquettes from waste that we collect with young people in the informal settlements. And I'm also a global winner of the Emergent Ventures competition for the year 2020. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm also a practicing mobile journalist, and it's about telling climate change stories from people's perspectives and how they experience them. I'm very excited to be here. Thanks.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Gemma Afjes-Hilverdink. I work at Open Society Foundations as a policy advisor in our newly established climate justice program. Many probably know Open Society Foundations as a human rights and justice focused, not-for-profit philanthropy. Our climate justice program is new, and we take a people-centered approach to this all, with a particular focus on resilience and putting the people at the center. I think the discussion today that we will have about youth and access to finance is a very important one to have. I immediately already wanted to respond to something that Daria said in terms of how even finance to participate in forums such as COP, and what lessons you learn from that and experiences that you take from that, how you translate that into actions, how you will take this forward to the UAE presidency, right? What lessons do you draw? And happy to be here. We see the finance for youth as a cross-cutting element for us, and looking forward to discussing with you all. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ludovica. I work with the United Nations Capital Development Fund, specifically on the Local Climate Adaptive Living Facility, which is a global initiative which aims to promote inclusive and climate resilient local economies and communities, specifically through leveraging climate finance and bringing local finance at the local level. So empowering local governments and community to drive the, I would say, local adaptation agenda within their community, involving indeed youth, vulnerable groups, including women, and creating actually a, I would say, civic space where everyone in the community can actually participate in shaping the development, local development that actually they want. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. Do they stay on stage and then the youth come here, or do they go down? And
Yeah.
location.
Yeah. Maybe Nathan can help with that.
Yeah. So what we'll do if you still want to stay, which would be awesome, is that maybe you two will move to that part of the room, and then Mira and yourself can move to that part, and we can just create a circle with the small cubes, and then just have an open conversation. Maybe I think now we have the introduction, but there's other people in the room that might also want to share about their work and initiatives, so we can do that. Does that work? Cool. And we can switch after 10 minutes. But I don't know if we'll have time though, because I think we're already running a little bit late. Yeah. Cool, perfect.
Hello, everyone. Just time checking a little bit. There are 10 minutes left. So feel free to also appoint a rapporteur and summarize your work as well. But you have 10 minutes. You can. You can if you want.
that's actually hoping to improve energy transition in Africa by engaging youth and energy management, empowering them to make plans while addressing the energy gaps as well as the because one of the key problems is access. We have energy that we have a proper education, quality healthcare, industrialization, job opportunities, and a lot of things. So we were trying to research new policy ideas, policies and frameworks, enabling development for investment into renewable energy, and also building the capacity of youth to understand the sector, to understand about the maybe in achieving the global agenda of transformation, as well as providing jobs to students in tertiary institutions, and as well as coming up with effective solutions toward accelerating energy transition in terms of clean energy and a lot of more things in the sector. That's what we are looking for. We start in Nigeria and our network to other parts of the country. That's
All right, everyone, are we ready to report back? All right. So, is this group ready to report back? Are you guys ready to report back? I guess. Yeah? Okay. So, who is reporting back from which group? Okay. And from this group, who's reporting back? Who's reporting back from your group? Do you want to decide right now? Yeah, because somebody have to come here and report back. Okay, who will report back from you guys?
Maria, would you like to?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, are we ready to hear all the updates back? I hope that you guys enjoyed and got to know each other more. I pass the floor to the groups. You can go first. Okay, whoever. I mean, exchange.
Thank you. Well, we talked about many things in this short period of time. First, we started about what is youth, who is youth, and that's an interesting question too. And there was a lot of speaking about training and youth needing training to access finance, to be able to preserve it and to use it correctly, to be able to find jobs and create capacity for young people and be able to find their own resources as well, not always pretending resources to come from outside, but also creating the capacity in young people to be able to manage and find it and create their own funding too. So, someone wants to add anything?
If I can only add the final point, I think that we also talked about a bit was the participation in the official UNFCCC process, right? In terms of training up, being able, making sure that there's a spot for young people, making sure they get trained, making sure they actually are trained to be negotiators, because that is also, I think, a key element. Thanks.
Thank you.
J'aimerais juste je vais faire la traduction, rajouter un élément extrêmement important, en fait le lien entre le conflit et le changement climatique, prenant en compte les jeunes.
Le lien entre le changement climatique
et les jeunes.
Yeah, he would like to emphasize the importance for the Sahel of the link between climate change and youth.
Thank you. So in our group, we discuss accessibility because like Children's Investment Fund is one of the biggest funds globally, but a lot of young activists here who we work in climate, we are not even aware of like the different funds that exist. So accessibility was one big one that was discussed. The other one was like risk assessment and safety and security with respect to getting funds, but also being in spaces like COP or doing actions on the ground in our own countries to protect the environment, but often that comes at the cost of us being at risk. And we also discuss like solutions and participatory approaches and how we can all work together, and also how we can use the toolkit that UNICEF has created. So yeah, but it was a great conversation. So thank you all for being here and looking forward to connecting with all of you after. Anybody else wants to add anything? Okay.
Okay, so that was a great reflection of the conversation. Thank you so much for summarizing everything. We're moving towards the end of our session, and we would like to open the floor for questions. Is there anyone who has any questions for anything that happened in the session so far? Maybe somebody can translate in French.
Si je veux parler, j'ai pas suivi la question.
Ouais, vas-y, pose la question, comme ça ils peuvent t'entendre et après je traduis.
Je n'ai pas suivi en fait. Quoi.
Oh, est-ce que tu as une question?
Non, parce que j'ai déjà les questions.
So who wanted to ask a question? No.
All right. Okay, so if there are no questions, then we will be moving towards our closing remarks. And for that, I really want to pronounce all the names right? So I'm looking on my screen just to pronounce all the names right. So we will be having Ludwika Emachu, Emachi, from Local Program Analysis, United Nations Impact Capital for Development.
Thank you very much. Well, I will be very brief, and I would like to thank you all really for this very interesting kind of exchange of today and like conversation, inputs, and reflection. Well, for me it was very interesting because, full disclaimer on that, I must be honest, as part of my career, I've never been actually at the forefront, let's say, of the kind of youth agenda when it comes to climate, but generally speaking. And I guess, I mean, maybe this is somehow situation where many maybe practitioners in the climate action field maybe find themselves. No, I think somehow the youth, gender are most of the time, and unfortunately maybe too many times, like issues that are considered somehow cross-cutting instead of being actually a main target of specific action, or specific finance, or specific actually projects that really somehow dig into the issue and go into the root causes that are maybe impeaching, let's say, young people to really fulfill their role of really climate champion. I think this is becoming really a responsibility for everyone to really take the issue very kind of seriously, and to put actually in place all the enablers that we can in order to allow actually the new generation to be able to play this championship role when it comes to climate actions. I was actually a couple of days ago, actually in a Sahel event. I was participating in this event, and I was somehow impressed. I mean, somehow maybe I knew already, but it was like somehow astonishing to listen that 65% of the population in the regions is below 25 years old. So, I think we know that young people are somehow particularly impacted by climate change, but I think we really kind of realize and act on the fact that they are also really the actors of change. I mean, we have been talking here, and I've been listening to young entrepreneurs, I've been listening to innovators, I've been listening to activists, and probably actually future leaders. So I guess it is kind of important to create all the conditions to make this actually happen, and to give them actually the space to create actually the future that they want to live in, because they will be actually the ones sort of carrying over what we are doing now and what we are discussing actually at COP. Maybe just a few points that I would like to maybe report from the reflections in terms of key enablers. I think we have been talking about access to information, to education, and capacity and training on climate, green economy sectors are key enabler for young people to actually really act. We have been talking about the importance of giving the opportunity, but the real opportunity actually to young people to participate and engage in decision-making processes, whether it is here at COP or whether it is actually at the maybe municipal council of their actually community, when it comes to really kind of acting on climate change at the local level within actually the people actually around them. We have been talking then about actually access to finance, which is of course a topic very kind of close to UNCDF as UN agency actually with a specific capital mandate. We have been discussing actually in our group kind of few approaches that UNCDF is somehow promoting. I think that we are doing actually interesting work when it comes to the inclusive and digital financial ecosystem, so working with financial service providers in order to design products and services which are tailored to the needs of the youth. And I think we have been kind of doing pretty well in some countries where we have been able to provide actually access to financial services to some 1 million young people and mobilize $23 million in savings and actually helping financial service provider to deliver some 30 million of loans to young entrepreneurs. So I hope we could kind of continue in this kind of engagement with financial service providers in order to really support actually access to finance to youth, but also from the local climate adaptive living facilities, so the program that I'm specifically working on, engaging with local governments as lower kind of tier of state actor, let's say, in charge of providing key financial, infrastructure and services to local community, to engage actually with interest groups, young people and women groups, on finding actually the solutions that they need to improve the resilience of their communities, and involving actually young people and women as the most affected actually from climate change in really realizing actually the development that they want to see in their community. So I think I will stop here, and really again thank you very much for the very interesting exchanges, and thank you all, and enjoy the rest of the COP.
Thank you. So with that, we officially just close. Feel free to enjoy the rest of your COP, as you said.